Hi, once again, welcome back to FutureFast, and we are excited to have Krishna Kumar here. And before I introduce to those who are not familiar with Krishna Kumar, I just want to give you a quick introduction to FutureFast. FutureFast is a platform where we invite people who are working towards contributing to the future and uh, possibly impacting on the future, which we will understand in the course of our conversation, and also try to get predictions and forecast, and not necessarily to create any sense of fear, but potentially how we can prepare for that. And that's the whole idea of Future Fast. And enjoy the ride as we converse with Krishna. So, welcome, Krishna, once again. And Krishna Kumar is a serial entrepreneur and based out of Kerala, but he's a very well-known name and face across India, surely in Bangalore. And I think he does quite a few things even out of Hyderabad. And so we'll understand Krishna what all he does and why and how through his own story. So Krishna, first question: uh, what took you to become an entrepreneur? What was your journey to be an entrepreneur?
Right. First of all, thank you for having me, Nanju. I mean, it's a great opportunity to be here talking to you. I know the kind of work you do, so I'm kind of delighted to be part of this podcast as well. I mean, my journey of entrepreneurship started like much early in life. I became an entrepreneur at the age of say 26, with hardly like 4 years of experience working with employers. After my MBA, I joined university as a teacher for a very brief time, and then someone advised me, okay, this is too early to become a teacher. You should go and work and find out your, challenges and do things which possibly you would never imagine you to do. And that advice I seriously took and got into working with companies like Maven, which is into staffing, which later helped me to kind of build GreenPepper as well. And then I worked briefly with Airtel to handle their human resources team. I was the youngest HR cluster head for at that point in time in India. Before starting GreenPepper, along with my ex-colleagues in Mafo and a couple of supporters who are like really, really important to me even now. So this journey, well, I mean, I would say like it is more of accidental than a choice, because at the age of 26 you dive into things which give you a lot of a feeling of being alive, right? The adventure, the race, the adrenaline, right? And later on, I realized that if I knew all the challenges, I would not have probably joined, right? So it's all about diving and finding out your element and finding your space and finding your area to work on. The reason why, I mean, even now when we talk to startup founders, this thing comes up like, if you knew this, these are the challenges. If you knew this is going to be the life, would you have joined? But having said that, when I look back, I feel I could do a lot more. I mean, many people say that I could do a lot of things in the early stage of life because of this huge thing called being on your own, right? Entrepreneurship. And the reason why I feel it is so important to be an entrepreneur early in life is that it gives you a sense of responsibility, a sense of maturity in that way, to deal with things not just about yours. It's about your team, your co-founding team, your people who backed you with investment, people who backed you with some trust and everything, right? So it's a long journey. So I would say I'm more of like an accidental entrepreneur, but who turned out to be, like you said, a serial entrepreneur who ventured into many things. Yeah.
Uh, Funny, you said pretty early and at 26. Uh, uh, I think you probably know. I first became an entrepreneur at 23, and I thought that was early too. And till then, I've met people who are entrepreneur who became entrepreneurs at 18, 19, 20.
Now it is like
So,
that.
yeah. So it's it's very interesting that what makes each of us take the whatever the journey. But one thing surely nice today is that I think the parents are very encouraging to the children to become entrepreneurs. So at least how was that in your case? Because my case was very different. My parents were like, why are you doing whatever you're doing, right? So what's
Yeah.
your story? How was it? Was your family supportive with your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so my family, comes from a very different background of working with banks. Middle class families in Kerala like focused on building careers in very safe sectors. Like I wouldn't say safe sectors, but sectors where they feel that there is a long term career and linear
Or
kind
rather,
of
be
career.
employed, not
Be
about.
employed, be
Yeah.
safe, do things which don't scare you, right? uh, that's when I said this idea, they were not sure like what I'm getting into, but they didn't say no, which is a huge thing at that point in time.
Uh,
They said probably you may try this for a couple of years and may realize that this is not for you, or maybe you will come back to what usually people talk about. So I mean, I think in that way they were like quite open, quite supportive. They were
that's
not
nice.
really.
When was this? Which year was this?
This was in 2007, when I just got started. They said like, go and do what you want. Maybe they felt that this is only a kind of an employment, right? Wherein
Okay.
uh, with no huge financial investment. So the point of business for them is like to put a lot of financial investments, set up things, take debt, take
Well,
that.
now I'm able to connect because this is almost 11 years of my trying to be my first venture. So I think already things have started changing and that's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the whole impression of entrepreneurship at that point in time was that an entrepreneur is taking too much of financial load, especially debt, equity, obligations to people, and also to navigate the hard market to come out with product traction and everything, which is something which was not the case, right? Because in consulting, we can start with very minimal investment. In consulting, all what matters is the client relationships, delivery. It is an extended form of self-employment, I would say.
Probably
Um,
those days, still you needed an office. Today you could probably do it out of home.
yeah. So we started with the office. Yes, we were backed by a very reputed entity at that point in time, and we started with an office. It's quite a very nice office, I would say. Like at that point in time when we started, that all helped us to kind of create a perception that we are serious about what we are doing, not a couple of youngsters starting something, right? So the perception really helped to keep the business in a serious, format, even with clients, even with stakeholders, even with people in general public. Because at that point in time, entrepreneurship was also observed by a lot of people around you, and they would keenly watch you, observe you to see what kind of work you're doing, and that keeps us coming to us in the form of like contacts, referrals, and things like that, right?
Mm.
So there are a lot of people who are observing you when you are getting into things like this.
Right. So before we continue with your journey, just from to bring a context of our podcast, Future Path. So what does future mean to you? You know, just when you say future, what does it mean to you? Uncertain, scary, exciting?
I think it's a cocktail of everything. Like I'm excited about it. I'm confused about it. I'm also finding it difficult to make sense of what is happening at this point in time, like to the sense making part of it, right? This word is used by economists usually to find out what is pattern and what is happening, how to predict the trends. It's really hard to do that. But I always use this metaphor wherein if you want to go to a hill station at night, what you would do is you can't see the hills, you can't do anything. What you can see is like the 10 meters of light from the car, right? And then you can still reach the hill station at night by taking 10-meter ahead and ahead and carefully navigating that path, right? So probably you don't see the hill station at this point in time, but you can definitely see what is 10 meters ahead. and if we navigate it well, we have opportunities to get there.
Well, interesting that you brought it to this point. Do you notice, do you observe yourself getting into any kind of a pattern, Krishna, uh, where you seem to be doing or reacting in a similar way? Uh, See, I have found that in the past. In fact, in my initial two, I've done multiple ventures, various things. So, in fact, in multiple ventures of mine, at some point of time, in some situations, I have reacted exactly the same way. And I analyzed all these things much later. So then I realized that I was getting into some kind of a pattern in the way I think or way I react to things, or I, so I really had to work on myself. I never even realized. In fact, some people, one or two people started telling me that, don't you think it's like a pattern? In fact, to be honest, I didn't even take note till someone pointed it to me that, this is what happened in the first time, this is what happened in the second time, and now you're telling me the same thing. So I didn't realize that. So till someone actually brought it into me. And after that, I've been conscious of it. And I keep, it's more of a struggle to work on yourself to say that how do I handle it differently? It's always people say that, right? You change yourself, you don't change things, right? Or to change things, you change yourself. But point is to, understand the realization. So do you actually notice that you have some kind of a pattern, or do you do any effort to that?
So whenever we come up with success on certain projects, like we feel that whatever we have done for that project to be successful can help us to make it successful in the future projects as well. I mean, there is a pattern which we have internalized, which worked for us, and we feel that it will work for us in the next project as well, right? So this thought is sometimes not helping us, right? If it worked for you, say like 10 years ago, if it worked for you 5 years ago, it maybe needn't work for you right now. Um, and the reason why we need to have people who don't agree with us, people who maybe debate with us to change our way of doing the way we look at the business. We call it the Mendel models. So I used to read this blog called Farnham Street, Shane Parrish, about the Mendel models and how we are so used to our Mendel models. For example, one example of the Mendel model is that people who feel that youngsters are like casual. I mean, that's a Mendel model. But if you really believe in that mental model, it will be hard for you to work with them and generate results because you already have a mental model which is so fixed, so concrete that you will be unable to work with them productively. Right? Similarly, we have shaped our mental models over a period of time. Right? It can be about money, it can be about product, it can be about investors, it can be about concepts, it can be about the way we start up. And if we feel that that's so important, then it's going to be harder for to change the mental models, because the reason why it is so difficult to change the mental models because it is so concrete, right? Because over a period of time, it has become reinforced, it has become stronger and stronger because of our reinforcement of behaviors within us, right? Um,
So, how do you work on it? Is it that you have some kind of a coach or a mentor, advisor, or have you created some kind of a system among your co-founders that let's do this on some regularity? How do you approach it?
So yes, we can call many people as our coaches because you can't have one coach to deal with this problem. Maybe we need to have a board of people, whom we talk to intimately, right? When I say intimately, it is about our sharing our vulnerabilities, right? So most of the founders, make this mistake of sharing only the vanity metrics to everyone and not sharing the vulnerability things, right? If I have to tell you like what's happening with me, then you'll be able to better assimilate the problem. If I just tell you, hey, everything is great and I'm going to do this, you may not be able to help me, right? Because I'm only sharing the vanity metric with you, not the vulnerability, right? So the moment I start realizing that you need to share your real problems with a very close set of people, then they act as a mirror for you and will tell you, hey, look at this, what you did. Look at the way you interacted with this person. Look at the way you consider your co-founder to be in what way, right? So they become a mirror, and sometimes they feel not sure to share with us, but when we really share like our vulnerabilities, they come back and share the truth with us. I mean, that is what we should be open to, right?
So, is that what or do you how you attribute your success to in terms of having identified few set of people as your mentors and advice? Maybe in boxes like for this I'll go to him, for this I go to her, and is that what you would attribute?
Exactly. And sometimes we are also resistant to coaches, right? Or people whom we talk to. Sometimes I don't talk to people just because they said the truth, right? For some days or some weeks or some months together.
It's
But then,
always good to hear people who say something that makes us happy than something that pushes us to the wall, right?
right. But I remember those words. I don't forget those words. Maybe it takes a long time for me to go back and talk to them because the truth which they told me takes a long time for me to process and to act upon. And when I act upon, I tell them, I did this. You said this 7 months ago, but it took so much of time for me to process it, internalize it, and then do it. Right.
That's nice. So if you could call on them anytime, how do you cultivate these kind of people who are like this unofficial coaches or advisors, right? So obviously, I gather these are not something you have some sense of engagement on paper. So how do you cultivate these kind of people? How do you identify? How do you cultivate?
So one thing everyone wants is like, uh, if I feel that this person could be a potential advisor, right? It's important to go give something to them, right? Go give, right? So when I go give, it's about introduction, or maybe like since I'm in the talent curation business, I can refer someone to them. Or if they are solving a problem for themselves, maybe I can contribute a little bit, and then win that basic trust of like I am here to give you first, and then once you get that, they'll be ready to listen to you, right? Or maybe we need to kind of so there is a big saying, right? If you go for advice, you get the money, and go for money, you get the advice, right? So same thing happens with coaching as well. Like when you have to go and seek specific questions, ask them specific questions. The generic questions, they may not be able to come back and give you a perspective, but if you ask them specific questions, most of them would love to share their perspective, or at least from their personal experiences they extract some insight or story and then tell us. May not be very contextually relevant for me at that point in time, but it helps me to get a perspective. And moreover, most of our challenges, we feel it is very unique, very strange, very unusual, and very not favoring us. But if you understand that these are problems which most of the people go through, there is a sense of common ground which you create, and you feel better about yourself, the way you work, the way you do, right? That's the whole thing which comes out of it.
Do you want to talk about these people who, people who have contributed to making the person that you are today, or who continues to, you continue to call on them, lean on them, and they continue to support you, inspire you, or just listen to you, or even bounce off you, like you said, they mirror and show you yourself. So, do you want to talk about who those people are?
Definitely. So one is my co-founder herself, Nisha. She's based in Bangalore. She lives near you, and near I am Bangalore now. I think we have already spoken on a call with her, and most of the ideas. She's a great listener in that way. More than being judgmental about things, she just listens, and that helps me to kind of come up with ideas. Sometimes when we talk to someone, we think through ideas and we articulate those ideas and we form those ideas during that conversation, which would not have happened before, right? Because there is someone listening, there is a human, contextually relevant human on the other side listening to it, which gives us the energy to shape the idea well, right? And when you shape the idea well, you try to articulate it, you ask a couple of questions, they nudge you, and then finally, over a period of like 1 hour conversation, there is some living organism coming out of it. And immediately, what I do is like I tell my co-founder also, like I document it so that it becomes, um, it has a shape, right? And once it takes a shape, then we can act on it, we can do something on it. It's a creative process, basically. If you really look at it, any conversation is a creative process. It's like composing music, right? Like you take elements from different places, you put it together, and then you can hear something which is soothing, which is relaxing, which is exciting. um, so if you take that process as a creative process and enjoy the process without really worrying about what is inside, which I'm going to get out of it, it takes you further, right? So that is one person. And then of course I have a friend who is a very senior official with a company, who always talks to me. He's always an aspiring entrepreneur, never been an entrepreneur, so he has got so much of energy about entrepreneurship than probably about real entrepreneurs, because he feels there is a great side on the other side. And he comes up with ideas on doing. I mean, is a great reader, he reads a lot, and he listens a lot. So he comes up with recommendations on what kind of new books coming up, what are the insights, the new authors. And if I don't have the time, he will make sure that he is giving me the summary of the whole thing on the call. He'll make sure that I listen to it. He makes sure that he I gather interest for it, and then go and become curious to learn more about it. So I think there are people who makes me curious. When I have a call with them, 10 minutes, I go back and search for it on YouTube, on Medium, on Twitter, and find more about it, and go back and tell them, hey, this is something which is happening. There are other friends who share tools with us. They're tool friends. I call them tool friends, like coming up with new tools. Hey, did you try this? Why don't you try this? I tried this. This is what I got. And that's a great, very lively interaction, mostly young people. So if you look at each friend, I would call, have a very different way of contributing to us. Some of them don't talk to me for some days, and I know what is the reason. So I call them and ask them, like, what's happening, and then they would say, last conversation, this point was like little rude, or this was like blatant, and all those things. So so it happens. So I think those conversations build us. So every conversation is a brick, which build us. Sometimes we have to unlearn from conversations. And the reason why I read this book called Second Brain, you would have heard about this book called Second Brain, and he says that we need to convert every conversation into a document, because that is how you value them. That's how you value the people in the conversation. Like imagine in a call, in a meeting, company meeting, you make minutes, right? You make agenda, you make minutes. Why don't you make summary of every call you make with your friends? You know
Right.
that's
That
a
is
great.
something I think it was even today from every meeting I carry a book, I carry a pen, I tend to make notes. And this is something I find it completely missing among most of the younger entrepreneurs that I meet today. They come for a meeting, they call for a meeting, they have something to ask, and they come without any book. And I don't even see them noting down on their phones, also, at least. Right? I mean, maybe it's good they trust their brain so much, but uh, I think that note taking is something completely gone. I do tell those people that it does make a good sense to capture the notes, but I think that's a very interesting point that you brought up as well.
Yeah. So I think taking notes has become such a thing, because if you can think clearly, um, I think you should be able to write clearly. And writing clearly will allow you to think better, deeper, and allow you to access the same information much later, because most of the content which we consume gets diluted over a period of time. And the keywords which you can collect from conversations. So you don't have to kind of make it a huge essay, right? You just have to put bullet points and keywords so
Correct.
that you can go back and search and find out more about it, learn more about it.
Hmm. So you already talked about one podcast, uh, two books, right? One book. The other one was again probably a blog. So do you have uh, references to give? I mean, suggestions to give us what books, what podcasts you want
Definitely.
to recommend,
So there are a lot of
or even
podcasts
the
which
movies if you want to recommend.
let's listen to. So one of the, now podcasts are like very, very long podcasts. Like, so if you go for a 3 hour drive, you can have single podcast running all the way. Right? So recently I was driving, and then I listened to a 4.5 hour podcast by Huberman. I never thought I would be able to listen to that more than half an hour, but it went on and went on and went on, and I feel that it is much better than possibly listening to random music. Obviously music is, the purpose is different, like it's a stress buster, and it kind of tickles your creative thing. But this conversation went on, and I just got immersed into it. Like, it was a conversation with a music producer about creativity. And Huberman is a neuroscientist in Stanford, and the way he asks questions, the way he comprehends, and the way he kind of comes up with insights is like terrific. Some of the points just blew me away. I mean, the reason why I just stayed there floating for the podcast to get more and more of it. So there is a lot of such wisdom bombs coming in, truth bombs coming in very often in these podcasts, which make you stick to it more and more. So one is Huberman, and then obviously Neville Ravikant is a pretty, uh, famous. I mean, obviously he has no podcast on his own, but a lot of people are making podcasts by his Twitter feeds and things like that. Um, James Clear is one of my favorites, especially his blogs. Shane Parrish again, Farnham Street is amazing because Farnham Street has kind of made me think a lot, especially about the mental models. And he interviews a variety of people like scientists, explorers, academicians, economists, mathematicians, and then extracts the information in such a way that we would love to hear them. Right? There is no way we would listen to a mathematician in a normal life, right? But when Shane Parrish talks to them, we gather so much of it from them. How they look at the world, what are the interesting concepts which we can learn from them, right? And how we can connect with these things to what we do, right? So connecting is the key thing, and Shane Parrish does the job of connecting this information from a wide variety of people to our life, our business, our work, our daily things, right? um, that's amazing. So these are people, I would say, like, who are the invisible coaches, who always put you, throw you into new worlds, right?
Well, that's amazing. What we'll also do is probably uh, get all the links for these things and share it along with this conversation so people could you know get this because these are great recommendations. And in fact, honestly, uh, I think 80% of it are new to me as well. So, and one just question in the same context: are you still into reading books or listening to books?
I'm into reading books.
Okay.
The reason is it is more active, because I feel when you listen to books, it is more passive. And when you read books, you can pause, you can think about it, you can read more. I mean, there is a lot of reflection required in the activity of engaging with the book, right? There is always some competitive spirit amongst people to say that I completed a book in 2 days, and I don't want to complete a book in 2 days anyway, and I don't want to read 25 books a year also, right? The point here is to sometimes read the same book again and again, and gather the best insights from it. Because reading more and completing more books, right, this is what you call finishing more books in a year. I don't know how people do it. It is hard because whomever who has done it, I go and ask them, like, they don't remember many things, right?
I do that. Uh, in fact, my reading is reduced only to like you're an author as well. So it's like reading friends' books which are not available on audio. And some of the books that I from the authors that I follow, I actually wait for their audiobooks to come. So only the known people who publish, I do tell them to consider audiobooks, but I'm big and majorly into audiobooks. I find it uh, a lot more convenient. But yeah, I think it's a
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's not
think
about
the
finishing book, but yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. The pace of reading a book, right, is different for a listener and a reader, right? A reader reads at his pace of things. Probably the listener is tuned to, uh, you know, aligning his pace with the person who is reading it, right? So there is a difference between both the things. And obviously, in long rides, especially in Bangalore, you can finish a podcast or finish a audiobook, at least some chapters while you ride. I mean, that's an opportunity. I think
correct,
the reason why people don't now complain much about the traffic is because of the podcast, right? Because people can get some quality time with engaging with good content. Yeah.
correct, correct. Yeah, but yeah, now I have a competition between the audiobooks and podcasts. So that's competing with podcasts as well. Earlier, it was a competition only podcast with the books to read. Now, podcast with audiobooks has become a competition. Right. Great. So this is a personal journey, Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing. And I encourage our listeners or audience to uh, share your thoughts, feedback, as well as any questions that you may have that probably we could reach Krishna back to respond to them if any. So thank you once again, and we'll catch up soon on the other conversations for the future. Thank you, and have a good time.
Thank you.